Viewers, what happens when a political belief inherited through social belonging is finally tested against evidence, personal experience, and human suffering? Taryn Thomas's story is not simply about changing sides in a political conflict. It's about the moment when an inherited narrative stopped being sufficient. Her early advocacy for Palestine developed through the language of solidarity, intersectionality, and collective liberation. At 16, she encountered Palestine flags within Black Lives Matter demonstrations and accepted the explanation that one struggle was inseparably connected to another. That framework gave her a political identity before it gave her a complete understanding of the conflict. After the October 7 massacre, her social media environment initially created the impression that Palestinians had been the primary victims of the day's events. But as hostility intensified on her university campus, certainty gave way to questions. The turning point came when she encountered the human reality of the Nova Music Festival attack. Civilians murdered, young people kidnapped, and families permanently devastated. And her transformation began with a slogan. Not with a slogan, but with the decision to look more closely.
Way back in 2020, during the Black Lives Matter protests, I would see Palestinian flags at our protests, and I was very curious. I'm 16 years old, and I would ask our leaders, like, why? And they would say, our liberation is bound to theirs. No one is free until Palestine is free. And so it felt like you needed to be a part of and support as a part of intersectionality. So I didn't really think much of it, and when October 7th happened, on my social media, on Instagram in particular, blew up with just Palestinian flag after Palestinian flag, and I genuinely had thought that Palestine had gotten attacked by how much support I was seeing. Within 13 days, by October 20th, at Stanford University, we had an encampment to stop the genocide. This is unprecedented speed, right? There's no time for mourning, and the families haven't even finished, naming all 1,200 of their dead. Yeah. So, and this is also a week before a single soldier even crossed into Gaza that we were labeling it a genocide. So we're already knowing how the story was going to end before it even began.
So you were involved in these protests, and then what began to change your mind about them?
The movement became about ourselves, and it became very radicalized. At one of our protests, it got out of hand. They broke into the Stanford University's president's office, and they spray painted very disgusting things such as death to America, death to Israel, pigs taste best when dead. And when I saw this graffiti, I looked for Gaza. Where was Palestine in any of those words? And I was very confused on what our mission was. What did we accomplish by spray painting these things? And so 12 students received felonies. Many students got suspended, and so that made me take a step back and reflect on at what point did the pro-Palestine movement become an anti-Israel one, an anti-American one? And so luckily this space allowed me to receive an invitation. A few months into, I think October of 2024, I received an email from my now best friend inviting non-Jewish students to bear witness to the Nova Music Festival exhibit in Los Angeles. And so when I first saw this, I'm still very pro-Palestine. I rolled my eyes and I almost deleted the email. But I was very curious. I've heard about the Nova Music Festival, and I decided to read it. And I signed up. And I mainly wanted to go see the Zionist propaganda. And so I went, and I didn't find any. I found phones and half-written messages, and in that exhibit, it was just grotesque how Hamas brutally murdered people my age.
The central lesson in Thomas's account is that political movements can sometimes encourage allegiance before investigation. Her original position was reinforced through three powerful forces: group identity, moral solidarity, and a highly selective information environment. Supporting Palestine was presented not merely as a political judgment, but as evidence of loyalty to a broader coalition of oppressed communities. And under those conditions, disagreement could feel like betrayal, while independent questioning could feel morally dangerous. Viewers, October 7 disrupted that structure. When lived experience contradicted the dominant campus narrative, Thomas encountered cognitive dissonance. The violence, intimidation, and refusal to acknowledge Israel's suffering did not align with the humanitarian values she believed the movement was supposed to represent. So instead of suppressing that conflict, she investigated it. The Nova Music Festival exhibit transformed distant political language into individual human consequence. Victims were no longer symbols inside competing narratives. They had names, families, interrupted futures, and stories. Her change of position demonstrates that intellectual maturity is not stubborn consistency, it is the willingness to revise beliefs when evidence exposes their limitations.
Afterwards, I had so many questions, and I didn't really have anyone to talk to. I didn't really have Jewish friends or any leaders that had went to Israel, and so I took a step back, and then the people that had went to that exhibit were invited to go to Israel. And so I spent 10 days in Israel, and I learned so much, and it was incredible. I didn't realize, for over the 2 years I was protesting, I never spoken to an Israeli, and on our fourth day there, we had a missile, and I just thought how ironic. I was, calling for the divestment of these systems I'm now praying for to protect me.
So what is your message to young people, to people in America, to those who have never been here before?
I would say just to slow down and listen. Listen to the people that have been here. Because it's so easy to bring our Western perspective and apply it to this Middle Eastern region.
Taryn Thomas's story should not be reduced to a victory for one political camp over another. Its deeper significance is the recovery of independent judgment. Constructive political engagement requires more than repeating the language of one social group. It requires historical inquiry, exposure to competing evidence, recognition of civilian suffering, and the courage to question narratives that provide identity and belonging. The most important transformation was not that she moved from pro-Palestine activism toward advocacy for Israel. It was that she moved from inherited certainty toward examined conviction. Viewers, a healthy society, no matter where it is not built by people who never change their minds. It's built by people willing to examine why they believe what they believe and who possesses the courage to change when truth demands it.
And it's so complicated. And so in the West, we think of things in black and white, and here it's just so much gray. So I just say just to slow down and listen to people's stories and their perspectives, because oftentimes we can talk about facts and history and debates and things like that, but that's not what changed my mind. It wasn't a debate, it wasn't an argument, it was instead listening to people's perspectives and their stories.